Kia ora and welcome to this episode on planting tomatoes outdoors. The three goldies are supposed to be facing the camera, but of course they're not. Yeah. One day we'll get it right. So we've got Prince Cashew, Mabel and Millie. Not all related, but yes. Anyway, as you can see, we'll show after this, I put some fork up the ground first, loosen up the soil, put some dolomite lime on, and then some blood and bone and some seaweed pellets, and finally in the last bit I'll put on some compost via the wheelbarrow and smooth it out, and then get planting the tomatoes outside now that the weather's warm enough, or I hope it's warm enough from here on in. Okay, here we go. So you're going to need stakes for this, and some twine to tie up the tomatoes to the stakes. But anyway, let's get into it. Typically the tomatoes I plant outside are more the heirloom varieties. The Tunnelhouse is primarily for production, so you're talking Money Maker and Beefsteaks and some Cherry 100s, but outside I go for ones like this. It's called Mortgage Lifter. I've got a whole list of other ones here as well, a couple of Money Makers as well, but you're going to need one of these, some stakes and some twine to tie them up, and some good luck that we don't get any late spring hailstorms or frosts. But anyway, I'll get into it. So basically this bed is wide enough to have two abreast, and basically 75 centimetres apart with so much fertiliser in it should be sufficient. So yeah, 50 to 75 centimetres apart, and on different sides of the rows there should be sufficient spacing for them. But I put the stakes in at the same time, and that way the roots grow around them so you don't disturb the roots later on. So let's get into it. Starting right, here we go. Pays to be careful when the roots are like this. You're just a bit pot bound, tease them out a bit, and that makes it easier for them to grow. And you can plant them right up to the first stem, the first leaf set on these ones. So there we go. It could be a bit deeper, but in this particular instance I won't worry about it. And there we go. Get the stake in there. Great. Okay, here's the twine. Just tied up. That way if we get a nor'west pop up overnight or in the morning, it won't get too battered around, particularly with this size. In fact, this is probably a bit big, so I'll probably do another one actually when it's this large. Tall. There we go. Hey Prince, come, good boy. Hey, sit. Sit. Yep. In my hurry to get the tomatoes planted, I forgot to mention I use biofos, which is a mixture of what we got here, phosphate and potassium and sulfur and some calcium, which are also great fertilizers for tomatoes as well. So I will have one of those per hole, and I'll mix it in. Unfortunately for Prince Cashew, it's not blood and bone, so he is not interested in having a sniff. So he thinks there might be blood and bone, but it's stuff in the soil. So don't forget the biofos. Wally's biofos does the job. Great fertilizer for tomatoes. Another heirloom called Bloody Butcher. Never tried this before. I'll give it a go. And that off. There we go. Not too bad. Right. And that's that. And okay, here we have the latest update for the Tunnelhouse in early November. So the tomatoes are getting quite high now, over 1.5 meters now, and their side shoots are coming along. So I've started to tie them up. So I'm letting, there's going to be 3 main shoots from each tomato growing up and going out to the side here eventually, which I'll tie up, and one will be tied, the middle one will be tied to the pole here. So I've got the basil and the psyllium coming on, the flowers. The capsicums are just getting established, but the cucumbers, they are starting to look magnificent, and it won't be long before we'll have our first a couple of weeks, so end of November, and we'll have our first cucumbers to eat, fresh and organic. Very nice indeed. Did have a bit of a problem with some creepy crawlies critters, but I put some Dearest dust on it, and they have since bitten the dust, literally. So that's good news, no more sign of them. So great. Yeah, and I'll show you a little bit of a close-up of how I take out the leaders of the tomatoes and keep them simple to 3 main stems, which I have been a bit slack on, but yeah, I'll get into it now and show you what's happening. Now the trick with tomatoes, of course, all these type of tomatoes, is to take out these leaders, and so the energy will go through the main stems and stick with, so the energy will go into the main stem and into the flowers and the fruit, rather than a whole lot of greenery shooting off. So like that, and this one here will be tied up. Always pays to have some twine in the Tunnelhouse at this time of year, or anywhere around tomatoes from now on. They're starting to sprout off, so like that. And then you've got this one here, which is one of the second main side shoot I have with this. So take out that leader, look at that, and that. So there we go, and gently wrap it around the main stem, and then tie it to the main pole. Eventually you want enough fruit on this that it really becomes quite necessary to hold it in place so it doesn't fall down, which it shouldn't do over there. So eventually that will grow out to there, and that will grow up there, giving space for 2 main shoots, and hopefully so lots of red cherry tomatoes. Kapai.